Okay, it's August 1st, 2024, and I'm with Mr. John J. Jeckovich. He's a World War II veteran, Purple Heart, and many other medals. And he's holding up the newspaper from the Los Angeles Times back in 1945. Hold up one more time, Mr. Jeckovich, so we can see it.
Well,
hold that paper to the camera one more time, Mr. Jeckovich. This is the actual clippings from V-Day. The Nazis surrendered unconditionally to the Allied powers. That's amazing. Los Angeles Times, final edition, 1945, and that paper costs 5 cents now. 5 cents now.
Okay, John, that's good.
Okay. You can put it on the table, Mr. Jeckovich.
what?
You can put it on the table to your right. That's very interesting. And we're going to talk to Mr. Jeckovich today about his book in chapter 13. We're on page 355, Renee, Tripe, and Etampes. At this time, Mr. Jeckovich is wounded, leg shrapnel, shoulder shot with a machine gun, and he's in the hospital in Paris. So we're going to pick up from that. But before we do you have your dog tag number, Mr. Jeckovich?
4209265.
Okay. Okay. Did you want me to read, or do you want to read?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You're looking chipper today.
Huh?
You're looking chipper. You're nicely shaved, and you got your new clothes on.
Well, what?
You're nicely shaved, and you got your new clothes on. You look nice.
Funny new quote.
Those are new clothes, only a week old, they just came in for you.
That was a little older.
Well, so what? You look nice. Let's put it that way. Take a compliment.
You look sharp.
Yeah, you look sharp.
Dapper.
Dapper. Okay, here we go. We got into the business section of town, nearest the park, and I saw a little outdoor cafe. I poured into it, and Renee nodded in agreement. We sat there in the warmth of the sun, drinking coffee and munching on some pastry. Renee sat there with her legs crossed, and there was a joy to behold and glimpse at occasionally. I was enjoying myself for the first time since being in the hospital. I did not think of the war, of going back, or the future. What mattered was being here with Renee, looking at her rapturous beauty and savoring this time together. Yeah, who would think just a few weeks ago you're in 5 feet of snow in a Battle of the Bulge, and now things have changed for you drastically. Right now you're in high cotton, man. You're in high cotton. High cotton for damn sure. I felt relaxed with her. There was something about her which defied description that made you feel good to be in her company. The language barrier was not the slightest handicap. I believe we communicated very well, and I thought we understood one another perfectly well. We left the cafe and the window shop to the various small boutiques and the craft stores along the winding cobblestone streets. What did you think of Paris?
Nice. I like it.
Nice. I would hold her hand, or she would hook her arm around mine and press her body against mine. It was all delightful. The clicking of her high-heeled pumps on the cobblestone, and their beautiful smelling perfume she was wearing, and her sensuous voice, which was low-pitched and decidedly feminine. We stopped at another outdoor cafe, and Renee ordered something I was entirely unfamiliar with. It was delicious, with a glass of wine and some small tart-like cookies. We sat there and talked. By now we both understood one another completely, and she was picking up many American words. After a second glass of wine, I was feeling enamored, but contained myself to the extent of holding Renee's hand or putting my arm around her. A glance at my watch suggested that we should be getting back, and I asked her if there was anywhere she wanted to be driven to, as I would obtain a taxi. What were the taxis like in Paris?
Old fashioned.
Diesel or gas?
Huh?
Diesel or gas?
Oh, what?
Diesel or gas driven?
Gas.
Gas? And was it left-hand or right-hand drive?
England left-hand drive.
I see. And did you have much space in the back, or were they really tiny cars?
In the car?
Was it a small car?
It had a small car, smaller than ours, yeah.
And was it a manual shift on the floor?
No, it was on the wheel.
Okay, so the shifter was on the wheel, manual.
Yeah.
I understand. We sat there and talked, and by now we both understood one another completely, and she was picking up on many American words. After a second glass of wine, I was feeling enamored but contained myself to the extent of holding Renee's hand or putting my arm around her. A glance at my watch suggested we should be getting back, and I asked her if there was anywhere she wanted to be driven to, as I would obtain a taxi. She declined and said that the park would be fine, and I left it at that. We reached the park and the sun had already gone down. It had become quite cool suddenly. I put my arm about her waist as we reached our bench, stated that I had a pleasant time and enjoyed her company. She smiled, squeezed my arm gently, and exclaimed that she too had a wonderful time. I then asked her if I could see her tomorrow. Her face saddened a bit, and she stated that it would not be possible for the next few days. I was taken back by her remark, but only said I was disappointed and I would miss her seeing her. She acknowledged by taking my hand and looking directly into my eyes. She whispered softly, "Perhaps the day after tomorrow, and most definitely the next day." As I was encouraged by her remarks, I held both of her hands in mine and then reached over and gently kissed her on the cheek, feeling the softness of her skin and her tenderness in her eyes. She smiled, held both of my hands tightly for a moment, let go, pursed her lips as if to throw me a kiss, and then she departed. The next few days were routine at the hospital, and I started to have time on my hands. Renee did not make an appearance at the park for several days, and I was beginning to think that it was all over for us. I would sit in the park for almost an hour each day, then walk around reaching the cafe we stopped at, but she was nowhere to be seen. On the third day, I did almost not go to the park, but decided at last moment to give it one last try. I arrived there early, and in several minutes Renee arrived. Once again, everything in the world was right for me. It's funny how that happens. As usual, she looked beautiful, and I was so overcome with joy in seeing her, I hugged and kissed her fully on the lips. What are you doing?
You're fighting a war, huh?
Huh?
You're fighting a war, huh?
You're fighting a war, chasing down three ladies.
Yeah,
A real player here. I got a real player
real
here.
player here.
You want to check the mail?
Yeah, I will.
She did not think it was presumptuous of me, and I got the impression that she enjoyed it and would have been disappointed if I had not. She took my hand and stated that she wanted to take me someplace. As we walked hand in hand in the opposite direction, we had taken from the first day, I could see that she was exciting and exuberant. Her sprightliness was enchanting, and she fairly glowed with sensitivity, with added immeasurably to her charm and gracefulness. She was dressed less stunningly than our last meeting, but was captivating. Her skirt was much fuller and longer, and her wool sweater she was wearing still flattered her figure, even though it did not cling to her body. She wore no hat, but her facial features were still alluring and tender. Her makeup was almost non-existent, but that did not take away anything from the overall appearances. She wore flat-heeled shoes, which made her appear somewhat shorter than she really was. I still felt that she was a beautiful woman with much poise and elegance. We walked for a while until we came to a quiet street off the main thoroughfare of St. Michel's. There were no American soldiers about, and nothing to suggest that there was a war going on only 100 miles away. That's strange. To the east of us. We stopped at a quaint two-story stone and brick structure with several large windows on a second floor reaching from the floor to ceiling. Leading to the front door were an assortment of hedges and greenery, and now dormant because of the winter months. On both sides of the huge oaken door were two large shuttered windows. The shutters were swept back to emit more of the sun rays and to provide more light inside. Renee stopped at the front door and turned to look at me. It was obvious that she had not done this venture before, as she was apprehensive of a new role she had undertaken. I could see that she was looking to me for approval, and that I felt that she had held me in a degree of esteem and regard. I smiled approvingly, and she took my hand. With a broad smile, she opened the huge door. As we entered, my first sensation was the emanation of dampness. There's a lot of dampness in Renee's house.
A what?
A lot of dampness in Renee's house in Paris. Dampness.
Cabness.
Dampness in Renee's house. She said there was dampness when you entered Renee's house.
What? What's the word?
D-A-M-P-N-E-S-S. Dampness. It was damp. Dampness.
Dampness.
Yeah.
Oh, dampness.
Dampness. Was there a lot of dampness in Renee's house?
Well, there's no central heat.
I got a whiff of fresh paint if someone had just painted something. A room, a furniture, or something. Then there was a familiar odor I'd experienced before, but could not place it now. Renee was still holding my hand, took me through the sitting parlor and to one side of the room, which led to the staircase ending at the second floor. As we stood at the landing at the top of the stairs, my eyes took in a large expanse of a room, full of sunlight rushing through a large windows I had seen outside. There's very large windows, you say, from ceiling to floor. About how old is this building you're in now?
I say 50, 60 years old.
Was it built well?
All brick.
Was it built well? Quality craftsmanship?
Brick and stone.
What?
Brick and stone.
Okay. Brick and stone. That could be the reason for the dampness too.
Yeah.
Scattered about the room were painting easels and tall stools of every description. One of the two windowless walls were paintings of all sizes and description. There were portraits and landscapes of animals, buildings, and even more grenadiers and tankers. There's also a painting of a Mark IV and Mark V tanks. I was amazed at the assortment of the quality of the paintments. They were really quite good and displayed much talent. So she also painted tanks.
Yeah.
Hobby. Then it came to me, this was a studio, a painter's studio, and Renee was the artist. I turned her hair, took her hand, and murmured, "You did all this?" pointing as I spoke. She took my other hand and uttered modestly and without ceremony, "Yes, I've been doing this since I was a little girl. This is how I earn my living." I brought her close to me, put her arm around her waist, and proceeded to walk around the huge room as she explained the many paintings to me. I was overwhelmed by her talent and modesty and her penchant for trivializing her great gift. We stopped before the military paintings, and I was intrigued by the skillful artistry in the detail and life depiction they presented, especially of the Tiger tanks and the German soldiers. How'd all the German soldiers get in there?
Oh, German officers. She painted them.
Okay,
They wanted hand painted pictures of themselves.
okay. Okay. They surely must have been painted from real life. I thought to get so much detail into them. I turned to Renee, nodded my approval. She was pleased at my assessment and stayed close to me. As we completed the circuit around the room, she led me to the staircase, and we descended to the first floor into the kitchen in the rear of the house. It was a large kitchen with a huge cast iron wood-burning stove glowing profusely, giving off a warm, comfortable sensation to the entire room. There was a small wooden table scrubbed to its bleached grain and several wooden chairs of the same hue. The floor was covered with flat stones laid in mortar, and around the perimeter of the room were red bricks forming the ledge also into the mortar. On the stove was a large black iron pot, boiling away furiously into much vapor and aroma. I turned to Renee and blotted out one word, tripe, pointing to the boiling part. So you knew at that time what tripe was?
Yeah. Well, my mother was making it once in a while.
And so in Paris they're making tripe.
Yeah. That was a regular thing.
For those who don't know what tripe is basically pig's guts, pig's intestines, pig's stomachs.
I didn't know that.
She let out a shriek of surprise, and we both laughed. This was the smell I had recognized when we first entered the house, but I could not relate to it. So your mother made tripe all the time.
She what?
Your mother made tripe all the time.
Yeah.
I think she got it from that Polish delicatessen on Niagara Street near Our Lady of Rosary Church. I think your mother purchased the tripe and the brains there, and also the kishka.
Yeah.
And I also believe that your mother also made brains.
Animal brains, yeah.
But did you enjoy that? What did you like better, the kishka, the tripe, or the brains?
The kishka.
Kishka is the best?
Yeah.
And you remember going to that Polish delicatessen?
The what?
Do you remember going to that Polish delicatessen near Our Lady in Rosary Church?
Yeah.
Down near St. Stanislaus, near Rosniak's Pharmacy. Do you remember going there with your mother?
Yeah, Rosniak, yeah.
And the sawdust floors?
Yeah, the pharmacy, yeah.
Did your father go there too?
What, your pharmacy?
Your father, did he shop too, or did just your mother?
Where did he stop at
When your
what?
father was alive, did he go grocery shopping too, or just?
No, he never went shopping, no.
Your father never went into a grocery store?
No. I went with my mother all the time.
You don't think so?
I said I went with my mother.
But your father didn't go to grocery store?
No, my father didn't go shopping, no.
Not at all, right?
No.
Okay. So now you determined that was tripe. You were wondering what it was, and now you knew when you seen it in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The smell that I recognized when we first entered the house, but I could not relate to it. My mother frequently made tripe soup, and I recalled the distinct odor it gave off as it boiled away. I explained this to Renee as she grasped more of what I was saying, and she got more excited and pleased with my familiarization with the tripe soup. Your mother also made borscht soup.
Borscht, yeah.
And
With beets.
Yeah.
Beets.
And I believe your brother would come from near and far to have it. Your brother, Lookie, really enjoyed it.
The what?
I believe your brother would come from near and far to have the borscht soup your mother made, and because your brother Lookie really enjoyed that soup.
Well, Lookie was young then.
What's that?
Lookie was young.
But he enjoyed that soup. I remember he really went out of his way.
Yeah, well, he would come up for my mother's soup,
Yeah,
yeah.
he loved her soup,
Yeah.
That's a fact. She began to set the table with large earthen bowls along with large spoons, soup spoons, and brought onto the table a round basket laden with French bread. How was the French bread?
It was made in a bakery down the street.
How was it?
It was good.
Which smelled fresh and delicious. The last item placed at the edge of the bowls were cloth napkins with the initials JR embossed into them with gold stitching. Who was JR?
Who?
You said she had napkins with gold initials JR.
J.R.?
Yeah.
J.R. would be John Roof or something.
She motioned by wringing her hands together if I wanted to wash my hands. I nodded and she directed me to the sink with this gigantic pump. Could you describe that?
And the pump it, yeah.
Where was that, in the bathroom or the kitchen?
Kitchen.
Did they have a bathroom in that house?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, they had an outhouse.
Outhouse, okay. All right. But in the kitchen was a large pump,
Yeah.
hand pump. Renee pumped the handle several times, and I quickly put my hands underneath the stream of water coming out. She sprinkled some powder soap into my hands, and I worked the scant lather into them, then finally rinsed them as Renee continued pumping. So it makes basically a two-man job to wash your hands. Yeah, we take it for granted now. Hit that little knob, you got hot water, cold water, and anything you want. I repeated the same procedure for Renee, all the while enjoying being close to her. She would glance at me and her eyes would twinkle. Renee brought a large towel from the side of the sink and we dried our hands together. I kept grasping her fingers in the folds of the towels as we dried our hands, and she enjoyed my playful antics. I wonder if I was performing some unusual French custom, not aware its true meaning and significance. I sat down at the table and Renee began to serve me the tripe soup. How was it? How was the tripe soup?
Tripe soup?
That Renee made.
Yeah, it's good. Well,
How did it compare with your mother's?
well she was not as good as my mother. My mother made it longer. longer years.
Your mother did a better job.
Yeah.
Did your wife make tripe soup?
No.
Delphine?
No. She made it once in a while, but we didn't like it.
Was Delphine a good cook?
She wasn't a good cook when I married her, no.
Then what happened? How did it change?
I told her mom, get a little Delphine, teach her how to cook. She started me.
And then what happened?
Well, my mother took her hand, she showed her how to cook.
Wasn't Delphine's most famous item was the rolls she would make?
Now what?
Your wife made great rolls. Great rolls.
Oh yeah, the rolls made her on Sunday, yeah.
And your mother taught Delphine how to make the rolls, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else did Delphine make good?
Well, she's learning a lot of stuff because she never did that at home.
Well, what was her favorite dish that she made you?
I would say it'd be stuffed cabbage and roast beef.
Did your mother teach Delphine that?
Oh yeah, well Delphine taught everything from her mother.
Did Delphine's mother also teach her to cook?
Well, Delphine didn't know how to cook before that. Evidently she did.
That's interesting.
Delphine at home was like a third rung.
What do you mean by that?
Well, she's left out of things.
Okay.
The big thing was her older sister, Seal.
Okay.
She worked in Washington, so they thought she was working for the president.
Okay, one of those. One of those. Yeah. She went to Washington. Don't we have a lot of lowlifes in our family that gone to Virginia and Washington, D.C. They're really low level, but they think they're all working for the president, just like you said. Yeah, there's a lot of dumbasses out there still. A lot of dumbasses. Yes. All right, here we go. Let me find out where we left off. I'm getting sidetracked by these dumbasses in Washington and Virginia. It's such a joke. The soup was delicious. Better than my mother's, you say. The soup was delicious. In your book, you said, better than my mother's I thought. It contained tomatoes, potatoes, onions, and some green leafy substance which looked like spinach, but was not a whole bunch of vegetables which I could identify. And of course, the tripe was cut into little pieces.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound bad.
They ate good. They ate good, wholesome food.
They did. Mostly fresh garden food.
Yeah.
I asked Renee where she got all the ingredients that went into the soup. She did not understand the word ingredients, and I spent several minutes trying to make it more understandable.
1 minute, 40 seconds.
After she understood my question, she answered by saying that the women in the neighborhood would put up canned foodstuff during the summer and the fall months, and occasionally give her several jars during the season. Renee was pleased I liked the dinner, and I could see she looked of gratification and joy when I asked her for a separate serving of soup. So you must really liked it. You got a second serving.
Yeah.
You got a Were you eating the tripe soup with French bread?
Yeah, with the rye bread.
That was nice.
Yeah.
She also had a little bit more, perhaps several spoonfuls, and sat there watching as I gobbled down my second helping.
1 minute.
Boy, you must have really loved that. Because maybe it was a home-cooked dinner that you haven't had in a long time, being out in the field fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing like a home-cooked meal.
Had rations, K-rations.
Yeah, and then for a year sitting in the snow, watching your buddies get slaughtered. So this must have been a great treat.
What was in the K rations? What was normally in your K rations?
Cheese, crackers, bologna, slices of bologna.
Spam?
Spam in a little can, yeah.
So this was a real treat. About 18 seconds.
Wow, so this was a real treat then.
What,
This is
that
your
K
home-
rations?
No, this home-cooked meal.
No, they gave us the K rations when we were out in the field,
I
yeah.
mean, when Renee's making this soup.
5 seconds.
Oh, yeah, well, I had all the different foods.
All right, we'll pick it up tomorrow.
Wait,